This is the Xbox ROG Ally X. So let's talk about it. So I've had this device for about a week and there's a lot to talk about here. I'm going to be spending more time. So I also will be doing like a month with this device or travel with it, something just to see how it works on the road, because that's where you spend time with devices like this. Now we know the price point is $1,000, $999, and you can argue either way whether it's worth it or not, but I've been using devices like the Air Neos, the Flips, which are like $1,400. So there are expensive devices out there, but there's also a cheaper version with the Xbox ROG Ally that is at a lower price point. Now, that being said, this device has a very unique and different look and feel to it. So let's start with the hardware. Hardware of this device is interesting because it does look very similar to the original Ally or Ally X. And you look at them, it kind of does, but it doesn't, right? Because you've got those grips on the side that are very, very pronounced. Those grips, of course, remind you of a controller and fits really comfortable. As you look at the hardware, and especially looking at the side, it really looks like a controller. And then you pan around, and you're like, okay, it's a portable gaming console. But it packs in a lot of performance and a lot of good stuff in there. We've got the new Ryzen Z2 Extreme processor. We also got up to 24 gigabytes of RAM, which is a lot, and also very useful while you're gaming. Now, this device has a terabyte of storage, and we also have a 7-inch 1080p display, 120 Hz. Of course, what we definitely need for gaming. Now, the physical nature of the hardware itself, of course, you've got your thumbsticks on either side that have that light up ring, ROG lights. You have your D-pad that accentuates well, and trust me, when you're playing Street Fighter and doing Hadoukens, as you can see, it is really smooth. I like it. Above the D-pad is your Xbox button, your command center button, and of course your share button. Below that is speakers, and boy, you gotta wait to listen to those speakers now. Now let's continue with the hardware. On the right hand side, we have the XYBA buttons. Now something ASUS talked about with the Ally X, which continues here, is that distant travel from your right thumbsticks to your XYBA buttons. Very short, very good for moving to those buttons whenever you need to. And of course, you have your other menu buttons here. At the top side, you have, of course, your triggers, your right trigger, right bumper, power button that has a fingerprint sensor, headphone jack, micro SD card slot, volume rocker, you have fan vents, you've got, of course, 2 USB Type-C ports, and a LED indicator, and of course, your left and right triggers. At the back of the device, you have bumpers. Now, when you look at the device, it still feels very familiar. And we look at the history tree from the original Ally to the Ally X and then the Xbox ROG Ally X. You can see a lot of hardware similarities here. Internally, you also see that the motherboard has been reworked for all those components I mentioned, and also giving you more flexibility in there. Now, as you hold this device, the one thing you realize is it's very comfortable. It's definitely heavier than the Ally X, but it's also well balanced because of the design here. What I do like about it is the fact that when you hold it, it feels like you're holding a controller. So it's easier to actually game for longer periods of time because it rests comfortably in your hands. That is something that's very key. I'm not a fan of the small remappable buttons at the back. I wish they were a little bit bigger, but they're fine and they don't really get in the way. At least that's for me there. So that's the hardware. The hardware piece is nice. It's solid. You've got a big 80 watt-hour battery in there. But what about the software? This is one of the biggest things with gaming on Windows portable handhelds. We have the Steam Deck, for instance, which has SteamOS. We know how it looks like. It's a very smooth process. Microsoft has done something very different here. They have the new Xbox full screen experience with a stripped down version of Windows. Now you can still access Windows whenever you want to, but once you launch your device, you get into this Xbox experience. And right here in this experience, you've got a couple of things that you can navigate through. You can go to your home, you can go to Game Pass itself to, of course, either download games from Game Pass, stream if you want to, and then you have your library of games. Here you see all the games that are installed in your system from the Xbox library or Game Pass, as well as also from third-party stores. This allows you to navigate to My Apps, where you find games from Battle.net, Epic, GOG, Ubisoft, EA, Steam. I have a lot of my games on Steam, so I love the fact that this is here, and this is very key. Now you've got other options like Play Later, which you can navigate to, so on and so forth. But from here, you can launch Steam directly, or you can launch your games from Steam. So if you look back, you can see I have games like Cyberpunk that are on Steam. I have Black Myth: Wukong that's on Steam. I have Battlefield 6, which for whatever reason I couldn't play. Don't know why, but I probably just needed an update on that. That's probably what it is. So sorry, no Battlefield 6 here. But I have a ton of games on Steam that I can play, which is very nice. So I do like that about it. Navigating through the screen and menu is very simple. You can do it via touch. You can also do it via the buttons and the controller. And that works well, because A is for accepting, B is to go back, yada, yada. You get the idea. Now, the Xbox button. Its functionality there brings up something quite interesting and also very seamless. An overlay that takes you to an option where you have your recently played games and you can jump back into those games. Usually 3 games are listed. You can go into a library, and it also has a list of your stores below. Stores you've used the most. In my case, it's been Xbox, Steam, Epic, and of course, Command Center. Now from here, you can toggle back and forth with, of course, the D-pad, and then going back to the Command Center, which you can also access through the Command Center button. That gives you a lot of the command features that you'll find. Now, you've noticed here that this now feels less of a Windows experience, a little bit more customized for the handheld itself. So this Command Center is something that allows me to go ahead and go to the highest TDP performance at 25 watts, or I can go down to silent. I can also have a row of real-time monitoring if I want to, turn on FPS limiter, go down to 720p if I need to, depending on the game. I also have my FPS show up on top. So very simple, very easy. And then you can navigate through a couple more options. You do have your settings, where you can go into the settings for, of course, the device, your Xbox social, your audio controls, and of course screen recording. And then you also have a performance meter built in here as well. As a gallery, there's also gaming co-pilot, so if you need to actually get some of that help in terms of levels you're stuck in, you can do that too. So that stuff is there. So you can see that the software is improved. Now, one thing you notice in the software is you can swipe from the very bottom of your screen while you're in a game or in the Xbox full screen experience. And then you get into this multitask menu where you can see different options of things that are available, and you can basically X out of them if you choose to, or go into that piece of software. So that part is nice. I do like that. And again, it's a very seamless process. Yes, I mentioned you go into Windows and it's fine. It works well. It's not a problem. I like the fact that it's still there. Gaming. Let's look at the gaming performance of a few games we played. And let's start off with one that is pretty beefy, Black Myth: Wukong, right? Black Myth: Wukong, you can see the settings on screen. Was able to run this at around 50 frames per second, really solid, played well, very smooth. And the one thing you'll notice, and I'm going to tell you, is that this thing runs really cool. That is one thing you're going to notice with every single game I play. Holding the system, I did not get any discernible heat whatsoever. You can see the temperatures on screen, of course, for the CPU while it's actually playing. There's also the GPU as well. Then moving over to another game that I enjoyed playing, Doom, The Dark Ages. We're getting a solid 67 frames per second playing at Ultra, by the way. So I could have definitely got more, but being able to go over 60 FPS and playing at Ultra with this, so it looks good, 1080p, very, very nice. I definitely like it. Now, color me impressed with Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 really plays well on the system. We do have some really great FPS performance. You can see the settings on screen. What I like about Forza is, like, when you're driving through the open world, you're getting up to about 93 FPS, which is great. Very beautiful looking game. And then when you go into a race, like a specific race here, average I was getting between 75 and 77, which is also nice. So you got a nice range and really good performance here with the system. And one thing you'll notice here is, before we get to other games, is that while you're going through the Xbox store, it tells you what games work well with the system. It has this little icon that you can see that says, that is in green, that says this will play well in your system. And then sometimes it's maybe a light green, which means it will play in your system, but you might have to do some tweaking. So I love that about it. With Forza Horizon, I didn't tweak anything. I just went to look at the settings. They had already done that for me. I was able to play, and it played really, really well. Now, playing a game that has done pretty well for my benchmarking is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Here, I was able to put it at the settings you see on screen and get about 67 frames per second. Again, solid, played smooth, and temperatures ran rather cool. As a big Gears fan, I cannot wait for E-Day, but of course, Gears Reloaded is here, and this is really optimized for the system here. Playing Gears at the settings you see on screen, able to get a very good solid 84 frames, sometimes even 90. Been navigating the world, looks great. I love the fact that this game was remastered, and seeing it here on screen looks absolutely gorgeous. But being able to play it on the device, on the go, getting 84 frames per second is the much better feat in my mind. And finally, a game that a lot of people love to play is Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals, settings on screen, played really well, got about 75 frames per second, sometimes peaking up to 85 frames per second, which is great, but 75 was the average for here. And it showed, it played well, smooth, great gameplay. Now, one thing I'll have to tell you guys about gaming on here is that you're going to enjoy the experience. You have enough RAM to do what you need to do. The Z2 Extreme processor does well. And some of you ask for benchmarks. Honestly, there's no need. You know what the Z2 Extreme processor does now, but I wanted to see just how it handled the games on here. And that part was really nice. Battery life. How is the battery life on the system? You got to look at battery life in two ways, especially when you use other Windows-based gaming handhelds. There's battery life while gaming, and then there's standby time battery life. First of all, standby time battery life has greatly improved. I remember when I watched Dave 2D's video when he had his hands on this system, and he talked about how that was some of the impressive things he's seen. And I have to say, I'm really impressed. Being able to turn it off or just actually just hitting the power button and put it to sleep, and coming back the next day and seeing like, oh, my battery is still there. For a Windows device, chef's kiss. Beautiful, I love that. Now, the other half that you're going to see is battery life while gaming. It is quite impressive. It is very impressive, especially even on 25 watts TDP. Being able to game for quite a bit, I like that. It was solid all the way through. I think a lot of people will like this. In terms of the hours I was able to play, I was getting closer to about 3 hours or so. And again, it all depends on what game you're playing, but you're going to enjoy the battery life on this. You have longer gameplay sessions with it. And with the TDP balance on here, where you can go down to, of course, 15 for just, some light gaming, I think people are gonna like it. Honestly, battery life on this thing is good. I'm quite impressed. So it seems like I've sung a lot of praises for this device, but there are some things that are a bit quirky that I would love to see improvements. Now, the software is the first thing. Software is very good, and this is a huge step for Windows. Still not there yet. And Microsoft has said they are still working to make it, improve it, get it to those next steps. And that's something I want to see. One, I feel, is the interface. The interface is good and works well, but I still feel like it's more of a desktop interface for a device that's more of a portable device. I would like to see bigger tiles, bigger views. Honestly, Microsoft, go back to the tiles that you had for, of course, Windows Metro design. I love that. I think it was great. I think it will work well here, giving you just a bigger view of the games and making you want to just jump into the games. I mean, even the tiles at the very beginning in the featured section, like look at that right there. I want to jump into that. That I love to see. But that being said, there's still some finickiness with Windows, where in the fact where you turn on a game, say for instance on Steam, like Black Myth Wukong, you do have to accept, as a Windows feature, which is something that I wish wasn't here. And I know still it's a Windows device, just because it takes away from that seamless experience. But if you're playing games from the Xbox store, that doesn't happen, right? So that's not there. Another thing also is the fact that it doesn't come with a case. I mean, it's $999, there's no case. Yes, the original Ally didn't have a case. Yes, the Ally X didn't have a case. But come on, I would love that accessory there. To me, that's something that'll be nice and needed. Now, the big question here is that, is it worth it at $1,000? Yes, it is. I say that because the performance really put things into perspective. The software was really solid and smooth. And yes, it's more expensive, but I do have a device like the AMD Flip 1S, which is more powerful and also more expensive. So put it into perspective, I think the price point, while being high, I think this device is absolutely worth it. I think gamers will like it. Gamers who want to be on the go and have something that can give them good performance. That's the key thing. Not just being able to play the games, but good performance while the game would be quite impressive. So at the end of the day, I like the device. I think it's solid. I can't wait to travel with this. I've got a long trip coming up at the end of the month. So I'm going to be traveling with this and gaming with this on the go. But I got to tell you, this thing runs pretty cool. It's impressive. It's absolutely impressive. I'm running on 25 TDP. Also want to use ASUS external GPU that has a 1590. How would that work with this connected to like a monitor back there? That would be great. So anyway, if you have any questions in the comments, let me know. If you're thinking of picking this up and you're on the fence, honestly, yeah, it's worth it. But doesn't mean you have to spend the money for it. There also is the Xbox ROG Ally, which is a solid device at 720p. This 1080p gaming does it well, and it's worth it.